Fantastic. Let's open up the Water Sewer Commission meeting for October 3rd. Call to order. Commissioners' public forum. Anybody here from the public that wants to speak? All right, hearing none. Moving on to warrants, minutes, and abatements.
You want me to take that?
Yeah, can you take that, sir?
Sure. Could I have someone motion to approve the warrants in the amount of $321,258.28?
I will make a motion. We accept those as printed.
Could I have a second?
Eric,
I can second.
all right, roll call vote, please, Sue.
Mr. Bernard?
Aye.
Mr. Jennings?
Aye.
Mr. Cantwell?
Aye.
And a motion to approve the minutes of, September 12th.
I'll make a motion. We accept those as printed.
Second?
I can second.
Roll call vote, please, Sue.
Mr. Bernard?
Aye.
Mr. Jennings?
Aye.
And Mr. Cantwell?
Aye.
Okay. Next on
Moving
the,
on.
yep, is Vinny for the August MOR.
If the board would prefer I waited till after everyone else, I have a few extra topics to cover with the MOR.
That sounds great. Is everybody here, Sue, for the 6:45?
They are.
Okay. Then I guess we'll, I guess if I can defer to Mr. Jennings first. I think there's a couple people on the line.
In full transparency, I think what we need to do is we do need to wait until 5:45, or 6:45 rather.
Okay.
For the posted time. I don't know if any wants to get into the monthly operating report and then stop or what, but just stick with the posted time so that if somebody who wanted to be here for that topic doesn't jump in late.
Sure.
Okay.
Okay.
Go ahead, then, Benny.
Well, I can cover a few other things.
Yeah.
So, at the
Excellent.
bottom of the monthly operating report, we put the plant performance. And in the month of August, we tested for toxicity. And we did not meet the minimum criteria for the reproduction category. We resulted with 50% and our permit requires 93. Because of that, we contacted DEP and they recommended we retest, and we just completed the retest this past week, and it'll be 2 to 3 more weeks before we see the results from it. So it's not written as an exceedance on this month's report because we don't report it until the following month, but I just wanted to point that out to you.
That's the amount of living bacteria in the system, Benny? Is that what that is?
No. So the toxicity test is they take water fleas, which self-replicate really quickly, and they put them in some of the plant's effluent and some of the receiving waters, and they blend it. And those water fleas need to stay alive, which ours stayed alive 100%, and they need to produce 8 batches of babies over the course of 2 weeks. And we didn't succeed with the 8 batches of babies for the 10 test tanks. So it's a really complex test. It's a lot of data collection, but we didn't meet the minimum criteria. And that could be anything. It could be the blend water from the stream was off. Our plant water was off. The bugs were off. We just don't know. So that's why we retest, and we did some support testing to go along with it. Another topic.
Vinny, that could be as simple as the temperature, all the water that came into the plant because of the excessive stormwater, right?
Temperature, not so much. They control the temperature of the water, but the storm water, you know, all the runoff, it can wash things into the stream that will affect it. So typically on really rainy years, you may see this. And like I said, we've done the retest and we'll wait for the results on that and see how we did before we come to a complete conclusion.
Very good.
Before Peter moved on from his post, we had discussed, we have a handful of those dialers we installed in the pump stations that don't communicate well. And he recommended we move to cable modems for communication. And I'd like to just get the board's approval to go ahead and start that in motion of getting cable modems to all these pump stations. I really need these things to communicate. It's important when there's an issue that we know about it right away. So.
So what are you using today for communication methods?
So currently we have cell phone communication at 9 out of 10 stations. And 6 out of,
Which carrier?
we mostly have Verizon. We have some that are on alternate carriers. They're just not reliable. They may work for a few days and then they'll lose signal. And it's really time consuming when we have limited staff in operations. We have to go out and manually reset these things to get them to communicate. So we're resetting them constantly. And when me and Pete was speaking about it, he recommended the next move would be to go to cable modems. So I just wanted the board's blessing to move on with that.
What is the cost of that, Vinny, in your estimation, high end?
I don't have any estimation in front of me. I haven't talked to them or anything. I wanted to get approval before I even started down that path.
Well,
I think you get some numbers for us.
Sure, I can get quotes and come back to you next month and let you know what I came back with.
Perfect.
well, I'd like a little bit more than that. I'd like quotes and perhaps some input from some of the different carriers. So what's not making sense to me is cellular coverage is pretty static, right? So I know it can be spotty in Charlton, but if I'm in a place where I get 3 bars, I continue to get 3 bars. I shouldn't need something reset. And you may run into the same exact problem with cable modem, where based on time, your buffering and things like that may end up needing those resets. So you may end up in the same exact problem. So I'd like a little bit more diagnostics on it.
Can you recommend someone to help with the diagnostics on that?
Absolutely.
Again, we have limited staff at the plant and it's kind of all hands on deck for every project every day. And to go out and troubleshoot, we're really running thin on who can do what.
Well, no, agreed, but you may be spending extra money and you may end up in the same exact boat or worse that you're in now. So what I'm trying to do is to actually save you time and money.
That's perfect. I agree with that 100%.
And just so you know, Eric, this has been an ongoing situation for quite a few years that we've been having trouble with these pump stations, and part of it is where they are located. Especially, Vinny, is the one at the bottom of Bay Path one of the ones that gives you a lot of the trouble?
Actually, that one wasn't even put on this program because it never has cell phone service. That's the one that wasn't. However, the rest of them, they're all in the valleys because pump stations go at the lowest point of your system. So everybody can gravity feed in. And when the study was done for service, it was after the leaves had fallen off the trees. So there was good service. So we didn't realize there'd be a seasonal impact to this. They're probably going to start working a little better as we lose the leaves, but that's really not a good fix because this summer wasn't good with these.
No, so I'm in favor of doing an investment, and I mean, I can probably rattle off 3 companies if you want to touch base offline. I would just hate to jump the gun of going right to cable modem, which can seem like more reliable, but it could actually be more expensive, and you might end up in a worse maintenance boat.
No, I agree with you. I want the best result I can get where I don't need to babysit them. So again, I'm not an expert in this area, and that's why I brought it to the board.
Yep. So again, I'd be in favor of, let's do an assessment. I can work with you offline on who do the assessment and potential quotes for that. I'm trying to think off the top of my head. It shouldn't be super expensive because you're talking about just doing a network connectivity assessment based on your current standing. But maybe why don't we touch base offline and let's set a target of coming back next month with what we see like. That's fair.
Sounds great.
Yeah, I agree. I like it.
Excellent. Thank you, Eric.
So while we're discussing these extra topics, I have the replacement check valves in for North Main Street, and I would like to subcontract that project out. It's a pretty big job. I'm assuming it'll take the better part of a day to replace them. It's disconnecting both of the pumps there, one at a time, taking the piping out, putting in new check valves and putting it back together.
How long you
We've
think
done
that's
this
gonna?
at one of the other stations as well, right, Vinny?
Excuse
Or
me?
several. We've done this at several of the other stations at this point in time.
Yes, well, we just did J Hammond Pump Station. We have it in the upgrade for the Route 20 pump station that they'll be doing it. And this is
Yep.
the North Main, and this is probably one of our biggest flowing pump stations. And we
Do
can
you
actually,
remember the cost? Do you remember the cost of that, Vinny, offhand?
it was not a singular cost because when we did the J Hammond Pump Station, they also installed the pumps. And they changed all the isolation valves, which we're not doing on this project.
So what would you guesstimate would be a dollar figure that would cover this?
I'm guessing if we paid Slim's sewer service to do it, it would be a day's labor for 2 people, so probably $2,000.
All right, so if we just approve not to exceed $3,500, that covers that and something else that could go wrong in the installation.
That sounds reasonable.
Motion that we approve $3,500 for this, so that Vinny can get this work going. Not to exceed $3,500.
Yep. Second.
Second. Any more discussion? Sue, roll call vote, please.
Mr. Bernard,
Aye.
Mr. Jennings,
Aye.
Mr. Canwell.
Aye.
And I have one more off operating report topic to cover. Since we've had this extreme rainy year, there's been a abundance of callings and overtime. And I was wondering if the board would make a variance to the contract and allow us to bill back some extra overtime. The contract states we can bill back for 120 hours of overtime. And we've exceeded that as of August. The contract ends in October, and currently we have about 18 hours of overtime, plus whatever happens in October.
Would it be Sue that would be able to tell? I like people to get paid for what they're working, but I just don't know. It's not clear the impact on the operating budget. Do we have room to consume this?
So what happens is the month they do their overtime, it could be 2 to 3 months after that month is passed before I get the bill. So if I had estimates of how many hours and the dollar amounts, I could look at our budget.
Would that be possible to get, Vinny?
Yes, currently I have $1,800 in overtime that's not gonna get billed back. That means once we hit 120 hours, so we had 120 hours at $90 an hour, there's 18 hours past that we have not billed back. And whatever we accrue through the month of October. If it's a quiet month, it could be 0 to 6 hours.
Does the contract start November 1 or,
November 1 starts the new contract.
okay.
Vinny, is this something, in all fairness, we can address at the beginning of next month with all the information? if Sue compiles the information for us by then?
I'd like
Then you
approval
would-
I'd like approval for 3 hours tonight. And then the rest of it we could put on the next meeting if possible. Veolia wants
we-
to start the process of invoicing for August,
Yeah.
and they need 3 hours approved.
Is it possible to approve it assuming no overage to the operating budget? And then we'd address it next month if it does go over?
There's probably gonna be an overage on the operating budget.
Got it.
Sludge for the year is up, chemical FERC is up 65% for the year. We'll probably be flush on the chemicals at the end of the year or really close. But we're gonna more than likely be over on sludge. And we
So the
won't
3
have
hours you're
that,
looking for tonight would actually create an overall variance at an aggregate in operating.
yes.
So is that a bad idea to do, Eric?
I don't know, I'm still fairly new to town budgets. Where I work, I cannot go over an operating variance without CFO approval. So I'm not sure here if we're allowed some level of variance. So for instance, if we come in 10% over our operating budget, is that okay? And I just don't know the answer to the question.
Well, I just, every year we actually, I mean, historically, don't we give back to Dave as a rule of thumb?
I believe we do. I believe we have the money in the budget already, but maybe we don't.
Past 3 to 5 years, I believe that, we have given back a surplus at the end of the year.
I believe that to be true also.
I don't think it's a big, I don't think it's gonna really affect us. When you're talking about the 3 hours of overtime, Vinny, what is that dollar figure?
Well, it's 3 hours at $90 an hour, so $270.
What month is
Yeah,
that?
that's,
That is for August.
Okay.
You will not see that bill
That's-
for a while.
that's not the tip. And if you can do an estimated, by the end of the month, Vinny, by the end of October, so we know at the beginning of the month, is that reasonable?
I already have 16 hours for the month of September.
Sure, but what I'm saying is in October, you'll be able to tell us for our very first meeting, hey, guys, listen, October was good, it didn't go over, or no, we have another 4 hours. And at
Yes,
that point,
I'll be able to have those numbers for you on the next meeting.
okay. So,
But we can, oh, sir.
go ahead.
Go
Eric.
ahead. I was just talking it through. So in essence, we can approve the 3 because it's pretty minimal dollars. When's our fiscal year?
We end
July?
June 30th.
Okay.
Our-
That's when ours ends.
But my contract
Okay.
year ends October 31st.
Right.
So all my accounts start over on November
Yeah.
1st.
I gotcha. So maybe Sue, maybe I'll reach out to you offline. I'm just curious, like what's the implication of going over the operating budget? Because I just don't want to.
We can do that.
I just don't want to be like, hey, yeah, but yeah, to your point earlier, like 3 hours is like, okay, really, $270. We just spent that talking about it.
Yeah, exactly. No, we're not gonna, I don't think we're gonna sink the ship or jeopardize anything by approving that tonight. And then if any has all the numbers, for next month's meeting, at that point in time, you know, we'll have a better picture of that as well, so.
Definitely.
I'll make a motion that we go ahead and process and pay the 3 additional overtime hours at this point in time.
Yep, I'll second.
Roll call vote, please, Sue.
Mr. Bernard,
Aye.
Mr. Jennings,
Aye.
and Mr. Cantwell.
Aye.
Okay, that was all my extra stuff for now. I'll sit back and wait.
All right. All right, let's go back to that 6:45 appointment. I believe there's a couple people on the line, and the McKennies are also on the line. Russ Jennings has had the longest tenure here on the sewer department, so I figured I'd open it up with him and let him kind of explain the letter a little bit further, and then open it up to questions.
All right. Good evening, guys, and thanks for coming to our meeting. Most town residents do not typically have the desire or the need to be in attendance. Typically, we get questions when we do send out letters, such as the one that you received. Naturally, we are your board. We work for you guys, the town's taxpayers, people, and we look to run the sewer department, the sewer lines, the infrastructure, along with Veola, who we hire to do so, in the most frugal, professional, and reasonable way possible, taking into consideration today's current needs of the town and the future needs of the town. You received the letter because we have well over 100 different properties that have never tied into the sewer, some of which may never tie into the sewer. As we go along with business in Charlton, we do have people coming to us all the time for sewer demands. We do want to put our residents first and make sure that they are taken care of, but we also want to look forward to future business to help offset the tax base. And that's really the thought and consideration of the letter. So, you guys have specific questions for us?
Yeah. We got the letter, and my question is, I mean, I don't think I got the letter like probably 2 weeks after I paid the last betterment fee, and then I'm kind of like, why did it come that quick, that fast? You know, like
We
I didn't-
paid all the money.
and we paid all the money, so the lateral belongs to us because we paid it. You know, because when they put the laterals first by the house, they wanted a lot more money. Then they lowered the price on it, and then so then we paid it all the 15 years or whatever it was, you know, at the rate it was on the tax thing, and now it's done and over with, and I'd just like to know that lateral belongs to me. So if I ever decide to sell the house, I can hook into it, you know?
And currently there is no issue whatsoever with you doing that. And we give you a date that says on this date, you will no longer be able to do so. And I honestly, personally can say to you today, I don't necessarily think that is going to happen anytime soon.
Like, what do you mean? Like, how soon you think?
I really wouldn't envision it in the next 5 or even 10 years happening where all that capacity would be evaporated in new business. Now, do we want to continue to reserve all the outstanding capacity for all of time? No. That's exactly what the point of the letter is saying at some point in time, the ability to hook up may not exist.
So at this point, there's not like next January, we're gonna lose our right to hook up unless we tie in right now. Is that what you're saying?
Correct. Right.
Okay.
Correct.
And then if it becomes a time where we have to plug in or whatever, then you'll let us know before that happens.
We would definitely send out another round of letters for sure. You
Oh.
guys are our most important customers. You've paid the betterment, and you're our most important people in the town as far as the sewer department is concerned. We're not trying to take anything away. We just want to let you know that at some point in time in the future, 5 years from now, 7 years from now, that capacity is not going to be there any longer.
Okay, so
No.
we were under the impression that like
You
come
lose
like
it January 1st. Yeah,
January,
that's not the
it's gonna
case.
be- Okay, no, I think we're fine with it then. If we have, if
Yeah.
you know, as long as we're gonna get another letter, it'll probably be a number of years. You know, our son will be out of college, and
It will be a number of years. You will definitely get another letter, especially if I'm on the board 100%. Because like I said,
And
you guys are
I could,
you guys that have paid the betterment are our customers, and we want to make sure that you're taken care of.
Right.
So,
well,
so yeah,
thank you.
sure. Yeah.
That sounds reasonable to me. I think we're fine with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, the letter is just like a, hey guys, you paid the betterment. Just want to give you a heads up that at some point in time in the future, there's not going to be no more capacity left, and not that that's going to be tomorrow or next week or next month, but it will happen at some point in time.
Right.
And we will
Okay.
send out another round of letters for sure.
Is there going to be a phase
It
3 or
could.
something?
We don't need to know that, Jim.
and
I'm just curious.
guys, in all honesty, I mean, the way that this board has really approached new business coming into town is, you guys are coming into town, and we as a board are not going to allow you to decrease the situation for our existing and our planned customers and our residents. You're going to increase the productive situation and add to the community, not deter new business from it and take away from what we're providing for you guys, if you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, no, I
But-
do.
Yeah, no, I understand that.
That's great. That's
With that said, there's also a lot of different things going on at the same time where, like, you guys were on the call earlier where Vinny talked about us not making a certain level, or, you know, sometimes we have exceedance issues and things like that. And we as a town are subject to a lot of things that the state mandates. And at some point in time, the state can change the way we're operating the plant and doing business. And that could come along and say, okay, you guys have 20,000 gallons of capacity today, just for argument's sake. They could say, under the new regulations, you have 10,000 gallons of capacity because the plant can't handle it according to today's standards. So things change, and we just want you to be aware of that. And like Dave said, as long as he's on the board, I feel the same way. As long as I'm on the board, if that were to happen and your capacity was potentially going to go away next January, we'd send you that letter and say, hey, this is what
Okay.
we're looking at. Okay?
Thank you.
Yeah.
I think that's reasonable, and I appreciate that. I think we're all set then.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. Yeah.
All right.
My question is, when you hook up, does that include the pumps and everything, like the check valves and all that stuff that goes with it, or is that something you have to talk to with you guys? Like if we decide we want to hook up, who would we talk to if we want to put the line in?
So that would be our board, and
Okay.
that is on a case by case situation and based upon what you guys have for existing grade and what was part of your original betterment.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
All right. We'll cross that bridge when we get there. All right.
So I have, this is Ardney. I have one quick question regarding the hookup. Hello. So if you run out of capacity, in the future, say you have your own plant or come up with something, some other solution, would we be able to connect or no?
So what would happen if we were supposedly running out of capacity and we were going to say, okay, next year at this point in time, we're not going to have capacity for the residents that we're talking to on the phone today, you would receive that letter and say, you need to hook up before you don't have the opportunity because capacity will be going away on this date.
Sounds good.
Yeah, and just so you guys also know, we do have a moratorium in place on commercial businesses. They can't come and hook up to more than 10,000 gallons a day unless they come to see us for approval. And we've never allowed anybody more than 20,000 gallons a day.
Okay.
And
Great.
we do that to keep the usage down.
Yep.
Yep.
Very good.
Yep. Yeah.
All
So
right.
my name is Chris Catroni, and
Just one
I also
other,
didn't hook up, and I did the same letter like right after my betterment fee was paid. If there comes a point in time where we're not able to hook up, will I get a check in the mail representative of my betterment fee? Will I get a refund? Because if I'm not allowed to
no,
hook up, what happens? Go ahead.
what would
explain.
happen if we were going to run out of capacity, you would be notified. You would have ample time to state we are going to hook up, or at this point in time we're not going to hook up, and that unfortunately would be your options at that point in time.
Okay, so if I
But
decide
again-
not to hook up, the town gets to keep my money, even though I have a pipe in front of my house that I'm not going to use. That's what you're telling me, right?
Correct.
That is the situation.
That's fantastic. And you guys are covered all the way around legally on that, right? So if I go find a lawyer to come get the town to get my money, you guys are covered, right? Your legal representation has told you this is okay?
I wouldn't begin to guess at legal opinions,
Okay,
and if the situation ever arises, naturally more than able to do what you would choose to do. The only thing I can tell you is that we meet once a month. We try and represent everybody as best we can, as reasonably as we can. There's an open seat on the board, which anybody is willing to sit in. They can go to the Board of Selectmen and, go through that process. We would love the help, and we'd love the input. So if any of the residents ever think that we are being out of line whatsoever, like I say, that's part of the remedy, and you just put in your opinion. It's always welcome.
yeah. Well, this board has had a history of being, well, let's say I've been in town long enough to know. And I wasn't a big fan of this thing when it came through. I wasn't a big fan of it when you guys pitched it twice, and you had to pitch it twice to sell it to the town. You had to attach the schools to get it to pitch it to the town. And I didn't want the pipe in front of my house, and I didn't want to pay a betterment fee. So let's see how it goes and how long I have access to the pipe. And the day you tell me that I can't hook up, and if I decide not to hook up, then I'll have to explore other options. Because I don't believe anyone on this call thinks it's fair that you should pay a betterment fee for a betterment that you can't take advantage of if you're no longer have capacity for me to tie in. So, but now that I know where I stand, that's why I called. So thank you very much.
And I could definitely see your point, and unfortunately I myself, and I don't think anyone on the board right now was on the board when all of this came into town and this situation was put into place. I think the people who are on the board currently have come in the past 6 or 7 years and are just trying to work with the townspeople and taxpayers to just give everybody the best situation that they can.
Well, I applaud your efforts. I think you guys are all doing the best you can. And I know you probably weren't around. Mr. Jennings was probably around, but I know some of you probably weren't around when this thing came through, but it was a fiasco. And the things that have been going on in this board when it first came into being 20 years ago was also a fiasco. So, my opinions about that pipe, phase 2, we had a whole bunch of people at Glen Echo Lake who decided to make full-time homes, year-round homes, out of summer cottages on a half acre or quarter acre of land that wouldn't perk because it wasn't built to have a septic system on that land year-round to be used by a family of 4 or more. So we had a whole bunch of people petition for $10 million to run a pipe around the lake, so those people didn't have to spend $45,000 to $60,000 to put their own septic systems in. And people like me, who had a brand new house at the time, had a brand new septic tank, brand new septic system, didn't feel like having a truck come in and destroy my new septic system so I could tie into a pipeline and spend the next 20 years paying a fee. So you can tell I've got a lot of resentment about this. And I was quite surprised, just like the other couple was, that maybe a month or two after the betterment fee was paid off, I got a letter in the mail telling me I may not be able to tie in. So I'm not pleased about that. But I think I know where I stand, and I'll stay off the pipeline.
Well, I guess, so just to kind of jump on what you're saying. So, and I agree with you, the way Glen Echo was done was, I have no words, honestly.
Mhm.
But flipping to the other side, you have the opportunity to take care of the betterment that you're paying for. That's both legal and ethical. We're not defining a time when the ability to tie-in will come to pass. In other words, we're not saying January 1st, 2025, you will no longer be able to get in. The letter's simply stating, I believe, and somebody wants to go otherwise, is it simply states there may come a point in time when you cannot take advantage of your betterment. That's normal standard operating procedure for any town.
Yeah, there's a
And
date on the letter too.
if I want to go a little deeper, do you have any idea how much infrastructure Charlton has in public water and sewer compared to every other town in Massachusetts?
It's probably because the town is
The
so big.
percentage of homes that have that ability is deplorably low from a percentage perspective to the rest of Massachusetts. This town has a lot to do to build infrastructure. So I'm not sure if you're upset with that as well, but that's what I'm looking forward to on the board, is really building out infrastructure that makes us comparable to at least the average town.
I'm looking forward to adding any kind of infrastructure that adds value to the improvement of this town and increasing the number of businesses in this town. Because like everybody else, I'm tired of driving one town over to go to a grocery store. But that's been going on forever. There is, by the way, just for your information,
ditto.
there is a date on the letter. Tells me that,
Well, and
There is.
yeah, January 1st.
My
think we're all-
apologies.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
it,
We're
it
all
said
on the
May,
same-
but,
Uh,
quick question on that, sorry to interrupt. So when we are running out of, the ability to connect, you'll put a firm date so we know that this is it. There's no maybe, there's no may. You will definitely not have a spot if you don't connect.
For sure.
We would send out those letters, correct?
If I can chime in
Yep.
for a second, just so everybody feels a little more secure here. The plant's only operating at 50% of capacity at today's flows. So there is a lot of growth available as we stand right now.
But we have to be very careful when we say that, Vinny, because we also, our permit isn't 100% at this point in time. We're still waiting on information from the state, right?
We have our new permit in place.
Is
We're
it 100% at this point in time?
Yes, we are operating under our new permit.
Awesome.
And that's at 450,000 gallons a day, Vinny?
That's 450,000 gallons a day. When we reach 80% of that, we'll have to start making plans for the future. Currently, we're operating at 200 to 230,000 gallons a day.
And when the letters were sent out, we did not have our current operating plan in place.
Correct. That just came into effect.
Right.
It's a silly question. Is Amazon tied in or they have their own system?
They're tied in.
They're tied in.
And again, so 450,000 gallons a day, Chris, we're allowed, and Amazon takes 18,000 gallons a day is what their Title V regulation is.
Okay.
And
Thank you.
they'll probably send us somewhere around 9,000 gallons a day of actual flow. So it's a very, very small percentage of our,
Yeah, it's actually kind of surprising.
yeah, it is surprising. There's no cafeteria in that building or anything else, so
Freaking huge building.
it is a huge building. Nobody will argue that.
Right. And when we talk about users who are taking, as Dave said, 18,000 gallons of capacity, what we're actually getting from them is half of that. So we're not saying we have a moratorium in place to protect us of 10,000. We make Amazon go through the right procedures to get 18,000 of capacity, and they're in a sense paying double. So they are in fact lowering the cost for all of residents. That's the user that we want, and they're not taking away all of that capacity. So it's a very complex subject, and this is really years and years and years ahead of anything that will ever happen. We're just being overly cautious, as this board always is.
Okay.
Thank you for explaining that. I appreciate that.
So thanks for your phone call. Thanks for
Thank you
joining
guys
us.
for joining us,
Thank
all of
you.
you. Appreciate it. It's
Thank
nice
you.
to see you all. Thank you.
Bye.
All right, Vinny, back with the MOR.
All right. So we'll be covering the month of August 2023. The plant was staffed by myself, Grant Krisiak, and Amy Nassus. We completed Veolia's monthly inspection, and we did our annual fire extinguisher maintenance, which Impact Fire Services came in and did. Health and safety, we had the quarterly objectives, which were the same as the previous month. The life-saving rules number 3 and 4, ergonomic injury reduction. There were 2 activities we had to perform. And then we did a fall from heights training as well as a safety evaluation to see if we were in compliance, and we were. The monthly wellness was the step challenge again. As stated previously, we realized we don't walk enough day to day, and we tried to do better. Compliance for the month. There were no exceedances in August. The DMR was completed and entered into the CDX on September 15th. I printed out and signed a permission slip to discharge with the new permit. Peter Boria also signed that, giving me the authority to sign and submit DMRs on the town's behalf. We made a sampling plan that went all the way through 2024. So with the new discharge permit, we were allowed to pick a different sampling day stipulated by us instead of the state. So we chose to sample on Tuesdays every week. And basically the sampling plan is every week we have to test for certain things, then bi-weekly we have to test for other things, monthly, quarterly, and it changes on a schedule. The toxicity testing started on August 6th, and we kind of already covered that. Operations and maintenance, we ordered the parts and materials to repair the headwork screen unit. We bypassed onto the bar rack and took the screen apart. The original equipment was a 1/4-inch punch plate screen. The new one we ordered a 3/16 punch plate, and we were just seeing if we can screen out a little bit more material. The blower in the acid booth stopped working. We took it apart, found out it was a belt. We replaced the belt while we were in there. We put a 60-minute timer on it so it turns off automatically. It was just one of those little pet peeves. We'd forget it on, turn it off like an hour or 2 later. So on a timer, it'll always shut off itself. On August 23rd, we started putting headworks back together. We put a new brush in that cleans the screen. And while we were putting it all back together, we noticed the level sensor was cracked. We installed a new one and we reprogrammed everything. The screen used to operate for 3 minutes at a time, which is kind of excessive. We set it for 15 seconds, and so far it's been working great. We're pulling more debris out of headworks than we ever have before. We noticed RBC number 2's influent wasn't flowing, it was plugged up, and we used a jetter to unplug the pipes. And while we were jetting, RBC number 7 would periodically back up, so we jetted that discharge line on RBC 7. They're both back up and running like they should. The collection system activities for the month. On the 3rd and the 21st, the MTA samples were collected. On August 6th, there was a sewer leak discovered on Route 20. We contacted Slim Sewer Service to come out and make the repair. The damage was, in February, the DEP bored a test hole to monitor the water level in that area. And when they did, the boring actually went through the edge of a force main. However, it's at the very end of the force main, so there's never pressure there. And the only reason it was spotted is it was during a high flow event, so the sewer system started surcharging. So that's when the sewer surfaced on Route 20. It was contained. It was a really small puddle because the pump station it was leaking from doesn't run for long. So it came up like 2 or 3 gallons happened to show on the surface. The neighbor spotted it and he notified us. We went down there, we watched for it. We could see it leaking, but it never surfaced again. And that's when we contacted Slims to come make the repair. On the same day that Slims was out there making a repair, there's a sewer structure off the edge of the road. And we noticed that that looked like it had also leaked. We went over there and there was all kinds of rags and debris coming out of the structure. So Slims cleaned it up and went inside and found the problem was a broken air relief. And at this point, we have new air reliefs on order. They're not sitting on the shelf like I thought they should be, but we'll get them replaced as soon as they come in. On August 27th, the McDonald's on the eastbound rest area had a sewer leak from their grease trap. Grant was called in, he checked it out. He notified them that they would need to call a septic hauler to come clean the grease trap. The next morning, I checked it myself, and the sewage was still leaking in their parking lot. And I notified Pete, he called DOT, and they all got it taken care of pretty quick. And then I made a note, I ordered the new check valves for North Main Street, and that's what you guys approved to have replaced for $3,500.
Is that,
Yep,
Vinny, if I might ask, is that borehole drilling the sewer for something that we can talk to DEP about, or the company who did that?
I believe Pete already set that in motion. Am I wrong, Sue?
No, he did.
Yes, that's already been
Excellent.
set in motion.
Wonderful.
Moving on to pump station activities. All the weekly testing and rounds were completed. LaFleur worked out at the J. Hammond pump station. We refer to it as 6 West several times during the month. They cored a hole through the building. They ran conduit out to the wet well. That pump station used to run off of what's called the bubbler system. It's old technology. It's pretty dependable, but it's really finicky. You need to clean the hoses regularly. You got to purge them every day. And it's not really technology friendly. So with the sewer pump replacement there, we also upgraded the operating system. We had LaFleur install a level transducer, which goes into the bottom of the tank and it measures the pressure on top of it to tell you how much water is in there. And that's programmed to turn the pumps on and off really precisely. And for a backup, which we never previously had, they installed a low float. So if the wet well goes empty, it'll turn the pumps off, and a high flow. So if the wet well gets above a certain level and say the level transducer is not working correctly, the float will kick on and tell the pumps to run. So we have a nice redundancy at that pump station now. In the month of August, we hauled 7 loads of sludge to Cranston for disposal. We received 2 totes of sodium hydroxide. And we've had a few grinder pump calls during the month. We went out to 73 Lakeview. The contacts in the panel were chattering, and I've never seen that on a grinder pump. So we called Ed LaFord out to diagnose it, and I believe he came up with it was a wiring issue and he straightened it out. I don't have a note on that in front of me. We ended up back there and we installed a new check valve and seal on the pump itself. While Ed was working on it, he noted that the check valve was leaking. We went to 88 Glen Echo. There was no power at the panel when we arrived and there was grease in the tank. We scheduled full service to come out and clean it. A couple days later, we went back and we just installed the redundant run that we put in all of them. It was just the end of the day, the first time out there, and we didn't have time to get the run in when we were there. We went out to 14 Morton Station Road, and that's a brand new house being built. The grinder pump was leaking from behind the rail in the tank, and the panel that was included in the package was the wrong panel. So I'm not sure who, what, when, where, but we supplied Ed LaFort with a new panel. He went out and replaced it. And Ross was planning on fixing the fitting into the pump rail. We also hired a new operator for the plant, and he should be starting next week if everything goes good. That concludes the MOR for August. Any questions?
Thank you, Vinny.
You're welcome.
Hopefully you'll get some help in the office soon.
I got help in the office. I need help in the plant.
Well, I guess help in the plan. I guess that's what I meant. That's your office.
Yeah, I live there.
Dave's gonna start helping out Vinny.
Yeah, I'll be
Nice,
down there,
nice.
Vinny, 7 a.m.
Perfect. I hear you know how to really get things clean.
For sure, for sure. All right, moving on. What's our next agenda item here? MOR, I guess, new business.
There isn't any.
Nope. Old business, water sewer superintendent job description. I think last time we talked about this, Eric, you hadn't had a chance to read over the job description.
Yeah, I hadn't. So yeah, apologies for that. Yeah, I did read it. Everything looked great. It didn't look like substantive changes. So yeah, approval on my side.
Okay, perfect. We probably need a vote for that. So I make a motion to approve this new superintendent job description.
All right, since that was the outlier, I'll give the motion to approve.
I'll second.
A roll call vote, Sue, please.
Mr. Bernard,
Aye.
Mr. Jennings,
Aye.
Mr. Cantwell.
Aye. Let's see, no other business. Next meeting, Sue, isn't there something at the beginning of November?
Yes, November 7th is the all boards meeting.
So should we convene the week after that?
That's up to you. That would be the 14th, but that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 weeks from today.
So I guess we can meet on the 1st?
The 1st is a Wednesday.
Oh, yeah. there
What
you go.
time is that all boards meeting?
I think 6:30. I can
30,
double check,
okay.
but I'm pretty sure it's 6:30.
All right.
Why are you going?
Yeah, I mean, does anybody have an interest in going? I have gone in the past, but does anybody else want to attend this one?
I gotta be honest, I don't have any interest in going. I will go if I need to go, but I don't have any interest in going.
Okay. Eric, would you like to go or?
No,
Eric,
I'm good.
what it is every
Yeah.
board commission, they sit around a giant table and they discuss what's going on in their departments or in their world. So everybody's kind of brought up to speed. They do it once a year.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I'll go if nobody else wants to go. And
All right, then let's have the meeting the week after, Sue.
So November 14th,
Yeah, I guess so. Will that work all right for you?
I have no issues with it. The only issue I do have is bills, getting them paid. Because if we're not meeting until 6 weeks later, by the time they're entered and paid, that's like another week and a half.
why don't we meet on the 1st then?
The 1st is a Wednesday.
That's all right.
Yeah. Right?
Eric-
Eric, does that go with your schedule?
Yeah, that works for me.
All right, let's do that then.
You don't want
The
to
only,
do, you don't want to do the
the only-
31st and keep it on a Tuesday?
well, I think that, is it possible to get all the information from the month from Vinny? So
So
that,
that would be 4 weeks from today, the
Well,
31st.
Are they actually doing trick or treat on the 31st?
Oh, that's trick or treat, yes.
Yeah.
Let's do it
I
on the
still have
1st.
kids that are
So,
impacted.
okay, so you want to do the 1st?
yeah,
Yeah, first works for me.
Yeah, me too.
Okay,
all
right.
right, that sounds good.
motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
Roll call vote, please, Sue.
Mr. Bernard,
Aye.
Mr. Jennings,
Aye.
Mr. Cantwell.
Aye.
Great, we'll see you on November 1st.